Hello everyone! I have something I need to confess. First, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alyssa, and at the beginning of last year I told myself I wanted to read more. You know, the classic New Year's resolution that everyone makes, and then life happens. Work gets busy, Netflix releases a new show, and suddenly that stack of books is judging you from your nightstand. Or you think I'm some kind of freak speed reader, or that I have unlimited free time, I promise that I'm not and I don't. So in this video, I'm going to break down every single book I read last year. The good, the bad, the ones that made me cry at 2 a.m. And these are every single book that I started and finished. So these do not include my DNF books. And I'm going to go through them by genre. And now I'm going to say I did rate most of these probably 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads because I won't finish a book unless I think it's good. So I hope this helps you guys pick out your next read. Okay. First book I'm going to talk about is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Good Girl, Bad Blood. So the second book in the series follows after Pip's true crime podcast comes out, where she solved the case of the 2 teenagers that went missing and died in her town. And then at the memorial for those 2 teenagers, one of her friends goes missing. So she has to go dive deeper into the mystery that is her town to find out where he is and what happened to him. The next genre I'm going to go over is the more dark romance genre. So first we're going to talk about the book Leave Me Behind. So this book is about a secret underground military force made for criminals. And this girl comes onto a team and nobody wants her there, especially the guy she may or may not have had a one-night stand with before finding out she was on his team. So, and I'm going to tell you what, none of the guys like her, none of the guys want her to be there, so they figure out maybe they can't survive without her. The next 2 are from the same author, and they're from the same world of the dark forces, the underground military world, called Your Knife, My Heart, and My Blade, Your Back. So it follows this guy named Cameron who has basically gone mad, and he has killed every single one of his partners until he meets the pink-haired girl who has a lot of secrets she needs to hide. And it follows part 2 of their story, and I'm not gonna lie, this one kind of made me want to cry. The next dark romance that I have is called The Wrong Quarterback. The best way I can describe this guy is he's kind of Joe Goldberg, a lot sweeter and a lot nicer, and he actually cares about little Miss Casey. The next book is called Enigma. This one is also kind of a mystery because you follow this girl named Salem who goes to a university where her sister was killed. She tries to figure out what happened to her sister, and she runs into this guy who is the biggest mystery she's ever seen in her life, and she tries to unravel him and the case of her sister. Last in my dark romance series is a book called Hooked, which this is kind of a retelling of Captain Hook and Wendy. But it's almost as if it took place in the real world, and Captain Hook is definitely a criminal, and Wendy may or may not fall hard for the villain. Next, I'm going to hop into all of my romance books that I read. So a bunch of these are a mixture of hockey romance and sports romance and just all around romance. I will just say, if you guys see any of these books, I would like to put a warning out there that a lot of these books are probably going to be 18 plus, because some of them are a little spicy. First, we're going to go in with the book Revolve, about a girl named Sierra who was an Olympic figure skater before she had an accident, and it made her have anxiety and a lot of panic. And then she meets this guy named Dylan, whose whole world revolves around hockey, until he gets into a little bit of trouble. And so does Sierra when her partner drops her and she needs a new one. Next is the book called Black Ties and White Lies. It follows a girl named Margot who's working a plain job in LA as a graphic designer, and a guy from her past named Beckham Sinclair needs to clean up his little Playboy act. So he goes and he finds Margot to help him clean up his Playboy act so the public will think better of him and he can keep control of his company. Next is the book Room Hate, which follows a guy named Justin and a girl named Amelia who used to be best friends when they were children, and then they had a falling out. What happens when Amelia's grandmother passes and leaves the house that she owns to the both of them? Next is Unloved, and it follows a guy named Matt and a girl named Ro. And Matt, who plays hockey, has a low GPA, and Ro just so happens to be a very smart girl that tutors him. But Matt has a little bit of a playboy past, and Ro has to see if she can get over that. Next is the book Offside, which follows a girl named Bailey and a guy named Chase, who Bailey gets dumped on her 21st birthday and falls into the arms of Chase Carter, who just so happens to be her school's rival. Next is Body Trick, which follows a girl named Hayden and a guy named Brody, which Hayden has grown up around hockey players, and it seems like she doesn't really want to fall for one, but Brody's there at a bad night. Next is Make Believe Match, which follows a girl named Lexi who inherits her family's struggling ski resort, and the only way to save it is to marry a guy named Devlin Buckley's. But what happens when this make-believe match seems to be getting a little too real? Lexi already has a few hockey boys in her life already, and she doesn't want to add to another one. But then her and Alex didn't have a chat, and then she realizes that maybe there's more beneath the surface. After a one-night stand, she thinks it's just that. But then he starts texting, so sending gifts. Can she resist the hockey boy anymore? Next, we have Deep End, which follows a girl named Scarlett and a boy named Lucas. Now, they're both swimmers for their college or divers, and Lucas gets out of a relationship with one of Scarlett's friends, and it turns out Scarlett is into a few things that Lucas might be too. Next is Thrown for a Loop. It follows a girl named Zoe and a guy named Chase. Zoe, who used to be a former figure skater, needs a fresh start, and she goes and finds a job. She goes and finds a skating job at the NHL's New York Legends. Chase knows that his game is off, and when a girl from his past comes back to help teach him how to skate again and be back on his game. The next book is Love Theoretically, which follows a girl named Elsie and a guy named Jack around their theoretical physicist world, where Jack doesn't necessarily agree with the theoretical physicists, and Elsie doesn't exactly agree with his either. So what happens when these two people butt heads? A lot. Next, I'm going to go into a Vancouver Storm series. We have Behind the Net and The Fake Out. So I believe these are sisters who fall in love with guys on the same hockey team. This one, Pippa becomes a personal assistant to Jamie. Job's supposed to be a breeze, but nothing about the intimidatingly hot Jamie is easy. And then this one, Hazel, who's a physiotherapist for the Vancouver Storm, and her horrible ex just so happens to be following them around. So what better to get him away than to fake date his new teammate, Rory Miller. Next is Bad for Business, which is a guy named Riker who has had a little bit of a past, and it's not looking so good for his dad's company that he's about to inherit. So what does his dad do? Hires a PR agent. So Camille, a girl from Riker's past, comes to be his PR agent, and she's trying to turn this bad boy into the golden boy. Next, we have Beneath the Stars, and I am not going to lie, I think this book kind of made me want to cry. It's about a guy named Chase and a girl named Elena. They met when they were 11, they became best friends, and they started dating, had a little preteen teenage romance until Chase goes off to college and he breaks her heart. What happens a few years later? A few years later, they find themselves back in the same town, and Chase tries everything he can to make it up to her. Next, we have The Enemy and the Off-Limits Rule. These two are interconnected. This is about a girl named Lucy who has hit rock bottom. After failing to succeed as a single mom in Atlanta, she's back home and moving in with her older brother, Drew. Drew's the sweetest uncle, and they spend a lot of quality time together. That is, until she meets Cooper, her brother's incredibly hot best friend, who Drew tells her to stay away from, but Lucy just can't resist. And then The Enemy, it follows June and Ryan. It's been 12 years since June has seen her high school enemy and secret crush, Ryan. They had a petty feud for years until they meet again for June's best friend's wedding. So the next interconnected, we have a not in love and a problematic summer romance. So this one follows Rue and Eli, where Rue is studying to have a successful career as a biotech engineer. Eli comes into the story, and him and his business partners have found some things out about the professor that Rue has put all of her trust in. Problematic summer romance follows Maya and Connor. There's a bit of an age gap, but Maya has pretty much had a crush on Connor forever. So what happens when one summer they spend a lot of time together playing by the rules? Follows a guy named Cam and a girl named Blair. Now, Cam is her brother's best friend, and she's not supposed to be around him. Everybody's cliche. Next we have Only in Your Dreams, where a girl named Melody has to go back to her small hometown, broke, jaded, and unceremoniously dumped by her big city boyfriend. She hasn't been back home in over 10 years, and Zach Porter, his best friend's twin sister Melody, has always been off limits. When Melody shows up at the campsite instead of Parker, Zach realizes that now it is time to prove to her that they were always meant to be. Next is Overruled. Danica Pierce loves her work. It's all she does. And Ezra Hart is known for his charm, both in and out of the courtroom. And Danica has a little secret. She may or may not be hooking up with her rival, Ezra. You know what happens when Ezra starts to feel more, and maybe Danica starts to feel more, and they have a big, huge case between them? Next is the book Falling Like the Leaves, and this was an amazing little autumn romance story. It follows a girl named Ellis through her senior year. She moved from Manhattan back to Bramble Falls, Connecticut. And she hasn't seen all these people in years, so she runs into Cooper, who they had a little thing going on when they were younger before she moved. Now that she's back, and Cooper doesn't really want to talk to her anymore. She has to try and figure out a way to make him talk to her. Next, we have Summer in the City. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I liked this book until we got towards the end, because our girl, Elle, decided that she was gonna let her personal issues get in the way of her relationship. And I just didn't exactly like that part of the romance, but it is still another cute little romance. She falls in love with a rich guy, but she lets a lot of her own issues get in the way of their romance. And last in our romance series, we have Binding 13 and Keeping 13. And I cried. I cried a lot. It follows a girl named Shannon who has had a really, really, really rough life at only 15. And she has to transfer to Thomond College, which is like a high school in Ireland, where she meets Johnny Havenall. After an accident where he may or may not have hit her in the head with a football, not a football, hit her in the head with a rugby ball. I don't know what they call that. And he spends these 2 books getting to know her, trying to help her out, trying to make her feel better. And she has a lot of secrets that she's trying to keep hidden from Johnny. But I think he would burn the world down in order to help her. I'm almost done. We got one more genre. Now we are moving on to fantasy / romantasy, so I'm going to try and go a little bit faster doing this. So this one I'm not going to talk too much about because it is the ending of a series called the Covenant series. If you guys are into Greek mythology and gods and demigods, I definitely recommend the Covenant series to you guys. Next we have this book called Behooved, and it's about a girl whose family says, hey, you need to marry the king so he doesn't wage a war on our lands. When her sister uses a little bit of magic to make her a necklace to protect her, she ends up unleashing it on her new fiancé, turning him into a horse. This book was a little different, a little interesting. I think it was a little weird, but I still enjoyed it personally. This series was all over TikTok. We have 1 dark window and 2 twisted crowns. In this world, the power system is a lot more different than I've ever seen. It's these playing cards that this guy many, many, many years ago created. And when someone touches it, they exhume the power that's in the cards. Now we have one girl named Elspeth. I don't know if I'm saying that right, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Who touches a card and hits a voice inside of her head. And then she meets a guy named... She meets the king's nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in Wonder, who helps her figure all of this out. And I absolutely devoured these two books. So this book is called Firebird, and this one I picked up because after Fourth Wing, I needed more dragons in my life. So this one follows a girl named Melina, who's a dancer, and she brings up the attention of a Roman general and his nephew, Julian. So after years after they met, Julian finds her again in the middle of a battlefield where she's accused of being a witch. He immediately takes her back to his castle, and she figures out all of his little secrets. Next, we have Red Queen and Glass Sword. I've only gone through these two books of the series. So Red Queen follows a society where people with silver blood have powers and people with red blood are the bottom of the barrel of society until they find a girl who bleeds red but has powers. And the king immediately wants her under his control, but a rebellion breaks out. And then Glass Sword is the second book in the series following Mayor and King's Sons and the Rebellion. Next, we have the Revenant Games and the Hollow Hunt. So Revenant Games I described as Hunger Games, but bring witches and vampires into it. So the main character in the Revenant Games, her sister passed, and she enters the games to try and find a way to bring her sister back. But what happens when she has to sacrifice a vampire, and he doesn't really seem to mind until they get to know each other a little bit more. Next, we have the book Caraval. Now, I will just say, I think this was a beautiful book, and I love the scenery, but I despise third-person books. I still love this one. I haven't gotten super into the rest of the series, but it was beautiful. This girl, Scarlet, who gets a ticket to the Caraval. Her and her sister have been begging to go for years, and her sister gets lost. Scarlet has to run around trying to find her. And what happens when she meets a guy that's supposed to help her along the way? One big mystery. I did truly love this series, or this book, and I'm going to continue to try to get into the next book and read the series and let you guys know what I think about it. Now, this series I didn't expect to love as much as I did. It's Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I devoured all three of these books. I'm sure most people have read and seen it. It's a beautiful story, and it actually kind of made me want to cry. Again, it is in third person. I'm not the biggest fan of third-person books, but it follows a fate named Jax and a girl named Evelyn. She has a complicated past of she has a boy that she's into, she's loved, but he's trying to marry. So after Evelyn gets her heart broken, she strikes up a deal with the Prince of Hearts, and she doesn't really know what she's getting herself into. Prince of Hearts, aka the fake Jax, who is also in the Caraval series, but I ended up reading all of this before I really got into the Caraval series, so it spoiled a little bit for me. So if you guys want to read Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart, read the Caraval series first, and then Once Upon a Broken Heart. Okay, next, these books actually came out a long time ago, but for the past year or two, they've been re-releasing them in these beautiful new covers with the painted edges. It is called Obsidian and Onyx. It's a luxe novel. So it follows a girl named Katie and then her new neighbors and moved in across the street who have a secret to hide. Turns out they're aliens, but they look like humans. Katie just so happens to get a little too close. Next is the book Renegades. This is actually part of a series. It's about superheroes and supervillains, and a villain who tries to infiltrate the Renegades headquarters and try to take them down from the inside out. Next we have Reckless and Fearless. So I finished Reckless early last year before Fearless came out, and the ending of this book I did not see coming, and then some of the twists and turns that Lauren put in Fearless I also did not see coming as well. There's a few moments where I wanted to cry, and the ending was very beautiful, and I actually really do like this series. Next is the book Quicksilver, and this one popped off on TikTok, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. I'm not the biggest fan of the cover, which is okay. But it follows a girl named Sirius who ends up going into the Fae world and discovers a lot of hidden things that she did not know about herself or the world around her. Next is Terror at the Gates, which follows Lilith on her journey in a town away from her dad, who likes to have control over her, and she finds out a lot of things about her life and her town are not as they seem. The ending of this book was insane, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out. The next book is Dream by the Shadows, where Esmere lives in a town that is plagued by nightmares. So every night when they go to sleep, they have to take this elixir that keeps them from falling into dreams and nightmares and getting stuck there and turning into quite literal monsters. Except for Esmere. When she dreams, she sees somebody. And that somebody is someone that the kingdom fears the most. Now last, but certainly not least, in my romantasy/fantasy is Bloodwing Academy on Wings of Blood and the Bond That Burns. So again, we moved back to some more dragon books. And once I picked up this first book, I could not put it down. And thankfully, I knew I was going to like it. So when the second book came out, I went and picked it up. And also, these pages are just beautiful. So this girl falls out of quite literally thin air and finds herself in a kingdom full of vampires. And I swear she's the last living dragon rider. She attends the academy around all the vampires, and everybody wants to see who this mysterious dragon rider is and where she came from. But she is bonded to the king's nephew, I do believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's a little crazy, a little bit of teenage drama, because they are young, and a little bit of jealousy, and a lot of crazy. So I definitely recommend this if you guys like Fourth Wing. So there you have it, all 56 books that made their way into my life last year. Honestly, I love this journey. Every single one of these books gave me something. Whether it was a new perspective, an escape from reality, or just pure entertainment. I have zero regrets about any of them. Here's what I want to know. What did you guys read last year? Drop your favorites in the comments below, because I'm always looking for my next great read. And if you read any of the books that I mentioned, I'd love to hear what you guys thought about them. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me through this literary journey. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want more content like this, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more videos. Until next time, happy reading!